afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we've heard a lot of things from side proposition today. Most importantly, that I would like to begin with, they criticized us and spoke of how dead must mean unsustainable. But, ladies and gentlemen, what we see is that, as side opposition has stated when we contested their definitions, these nations that exist today, these autocratic nations, are still alive. They are still here. But, more importantly, they've existed for a very long time. Let's look at North Korea. It's been around, and it's been terrorizing the global community for decades. It is a sustainable state, ladies and gentlemen. They may use some extreme measures in order to bring that about, but one way or another, they have created a sustainable autocratic state that still exists today in the age of the internet. This is what I would like to address next. Considering that side proposition attacked us on our definitions, I'd say it's a little hypocritical of them if they are really going to say that the age of the internet hasn't happened already. Because you and I know that it is here. The age of the internet has come. Side proposition is the one who's going against the values of this debate. If they really want to say that the age of the internet hasn't arrived, let's look at the Bronze Age. It began when the first bronze sword was forged. Let's look at the Iron Age. It began when the first iron sword was forged. Let's look at the Nuclear Age. It began when the first country had nuclear capability. And let's look at the age of the internet, ladies and gentlemen. It began when the internet became widespread, not only in one nation, but across the entire world. So whether side proposition wants to admit it or not, we are most certainly in the age of the internet. And whether these autocratic states want to admit it or not, they are too. So now I would like to attack their case line in general, ladies and gentlemen. It seems to rely mainly on the fact that the internet is a relentless driving force of change. And this may be true, ladies and gentlemen, but what side proposition has failed to prove to you is that that change does not demand the fall of autocratic governments. I'd like to point out world power in the stage today, ladies and gentlemen. China. China is currently controlled by an autocratic state. There is one party that makes the decisions for China. This is an autocratic state. This is an autocratic nation that has enormous weight on the global stage. And what we see is that it is certainly not dead. Wouldn't you agree?
However, aren't you unaware that with the ascension of the new chairman, that China is in fact becoming more liberal?
It is becoming more liberal, but it is an autocratic state currently. It is the age of the internet currently, and China is definitely not dead currently. So, I would think that that satisfies all of the contentions required for this resolution, not at this time. Now, I would like to move forward and extend upon what my partner brought up about the Arab Spring. Now, side proposition has used it extensively as an example for their side, but what we can see is that not only do the factors exist there that caused the Arab Spring to occur before the age of the internet, but we need to come back to it now, today. The Arab Spring happened, ladies and gentlemen. There's no doubting that. But have we looked at the nations that were affected by it? Let's look at Libya. Let's look at Egypt. They have reverted back to dictatorships, ladies and gentlemen. They are now autocratic states once again. And enlightenment does not demand improvement, and that's very clear in the Arab Spring. Side proposition is using an example that is not a valid situation. Now, the next thing that they touched upon is that a large part of the argument they have seems to lie in the idea that as the citizens become informed, the government loses power. But this is false as well, ladies and gentlemen. The governments go from having military and social dominance over an uninformed people to having military and social dominance over an informed people. Let's look at Hugo Chavez. Let's look at Venezuela. He is a powerful dictator who has great power over his nation, regardless of how informed his people are. Now, they also POI that the North Koreans must know that they are in poor conditions. They must know that because they are living in such squalor, that they are not at the forefront of living conditions in the world. But the fact is, this isn't true. And the reason it isn't true is because they don't know any better. And they don't know any better in these moments because they don't have the internet to tell them so. They have nothing to base their standard of living against. But do you know what is going on in North Korea right now? Not at this time. Right? Whether or not the citizens have any knowledge of their lifestyle, whether or not they are being abused, whether or not they are living in poverty, the People's Workers' Party is doing very well. They are basking in their rock-solid, very alive hold upon the nation. And I think that that would state that the autocratic government existing there is very much alive. Now this actually brings me to our third point of internet infrastructure. Now as I was just speaking, the people in North Korea have no internet. They have no knowledge of what is going on outside of the country. And because of that, their government is thriving. They have no revolutions. They have no reason to worry that there could be an uprising. The reason that this is because North Korea has chosen not to allow the infrastructure to exist for the internet to flourish inside of North Korea. This pillar is actually talking about how the internet is not the long arm that side proposition would have you believe it is. Let's look at Africa. They do not have the money, they do not have the ability to have internet in such areas as Liberia. They do not have the ability to create servers, to have computers in every home that would be required for this amazing exchange of information that is the internet. And what we see is that because of that, there are autocratic dictatorships occurring, leading these small nations inside Africa. Let's look at Liberia. It's actually being controlled by the cannibal warlords. These men go to war against each other and then eat other people's flesh. And they are in charge of the nation. And the reason is because there is no internet there. The people don't know any better. And these strong men are the only thing keeping the nation, well, not necessarily in line, but keeping it under control, under their control, under the control of an autocratic state. And whether it is good for the people or bad for the people, that autocratic state is very much alive, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why we on side opposition hope that you see today that this resolution is simply